Good evening from Vietnam. Good morning to you, Kristi. Thanks a lot for spending your morning joining our Inside Sharing Show and share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, I want to say thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm really flattered that you asked me to join you.
I'm so happy that you and your family are going to travel to Vietnam in November. And now you have a new friend, new family. So, when you come, please let us know in advance so that I make sure that I have proper arrangement to welcome you and your family, okay?
I absolutely will. I'm so excited to know that you'll be there and I'll be able to connect with you and meet you in person.
Absolutely. And for a little bit taste of our culture, it's very honored if we can have you to do a little introduction about who you are and the works you are doing. Can you do this for our audience, please?
Sure. So my name is Kristi Herold, and I am the founder and CEO of an organization called JAM, and we connect people through play. And what I mean by that is for 28 years now, we've been connecting people through playing of adult recreational sports. And since the pandemic, we have been connecting people through playing corporate virtual events and team building, in-person team building events. So we connect people through play in a variety of different ways. I was raised in a small city north of Toronto, Canada, about 4 hours north, in a very entrepreneurial family. So when I grew up, my dad was an entrepreneur, and I grew up listening to stories about running your own business. And I knew when I was a kid that I wanted to run my own business one day. I didn't know what that would be, but I knew that's what I wanted to do one day. And all throughout my high school and university, I ran a variety of different businesses. And after university, when I moved to Toronto, the big city, I didn't know a lot of people there. And I thought it would be great to join some sports leagues, to maybe play some soccer or something like that, to meet people. And the only leagues I could find were really competitive leagues that I wasn't that great of an athlete. I'm an okay athlete, but I wasn't that great. So I decided, I'd heard about these recreational sports leagues in the United States. I'd heard about one in Chicago and one in San Francisco. And I thought, hey, maybe I could try and start this in Toronto. And so I decided to start this up. I thought it would just be a fun thing for me to do by myself. And that was in 1996. In that very first year, we had about 250 teams that signed up to play soccer, beach volleyball, ultimate frisbee, basketball, and flag football. And then over the last 28 years, we've grown. We now have probably close to 12,000 teams that will play every year in a huge variety of sports. We have softball. We're offering cricket for the first time this year, which we're very excited about. We have dodgeball and all sorts of tennis and badminton and all sorts of different sports. We run year round. I have about 50 full-time employees now and about 400 part-time employees. And during the pandemic, we were shut down. We weren't allowed to operate. Our mandates were very harsh, especially in some of our Canadian markets. So we lost 18 months of revenue where we couldn't connect people through playing sports. So we had to survive. In order to survive, we looked at our core purpose of connecting people through play, and we thought, how can we do this differently? And that's when we came up with the idea to run virtual events for companies. And so we started doing scavenger hunts, game shows, trivia nights, escape rooms. We came up with 12 different escape rooms, and we started selling those and producing these events. And we did over 1,500 events in the first year for companies all over the world. We've done over 4,000 events since we started that side of the business. So now our sports leagues are back up and running, bigger than ever. We're in 25 different cities, and we're in North America, and then we're in we're connecting people through play with all our corporate team building events all around the world with the virtual events, and we also do these in-person team building events. So that's sort of who I am. I've made my life and career all about connecting people through play. And then I wrote a book. I wrote this book called It Pays to Play, How Play Improves Business Culture. I wrote that during the pandemic because I realized people need to laugh and have fun. And it's important. Life is too short not to be having fun with the work we're doing. And I wanted to encourage business leaders to find ways to make work fun. There's no excuse not to make work fun, and doing so will help keep your employees retained. They'll be much more engaged and productive. Their mental health and physical health will be so much better. They'll be happier employees, which will make for happier customers. I mean, there's just so much. They'll be more creative and innovative. There's so many reasons to have fun with the work we're doing. So that's who I am. I am married, and I have 6 kids. I have 3 of my own kids and 3 bonus kids. We have a real life Brady bunch. I'm married to a man named David Brady, so we're literally a Brady bunch. And I love to travel, and I love to play tennis and pickleball and do yoga, and that's kind of who I am.
Wow, it's amazing story. Thanks a lot for sharing with us. And then this conversation, we're gonna examine the journey all together. For the entrepreneurship is one thing, and then another one is the 28 years of bringing love and joy to the people. What a privilege, for a person to bring that happiness to many people, right?
Yes.
Especially during the pandemic where the stress everywhere. And I'm coming from the corporate world, and we know how stressful our works, is, right? And then for our clients and also. So if we can bring joy to the workplace, imagine how people will feel. And then when they feel happy, they come home having dinner at home, right? And talk about works, talk about the environment. They bring hope to their children, ready for them to go into the workplace.
Absolutely.
So that's a beautiful thing that you've been doing. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. Okay.
I'm a big believer in the ripple effect. Whether it's someone who's playing soccer or volleyball in our sports leagues, they go home feeling happier and healthier, so they're a better dad or a better girlfriend or a better employee the next day when they go to work. And then when it comes to the workplace, you're right. Like, if you're having some fun and laughs while you work, you go home happier. And so then you're spreading more joy. So the ripple effect of the work I get to do is very powerful, and I'm incredibly grateful. I wake up every day so grateful for the work we get to do.
Well, beautiful.
It truly is a privilege.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Kristi, we're gonna travel time together. Definitely, we're gonna travel time to the 1996, but we want to travel time prior to that. Okay.
Okay.
So, when I was little, I wanted to become an astronaut, but life didn't give me any chance to do that. My wife wanted to become a singer, and then she only performed at the school, but she never became a singer, right? A professional singer. So when you were little, okay, what was your dream about yourself in the future?
2 things.
Two
I
things.
was torn when I was a kid. I wanted to be. I grew up ski racing, alpine ski racing. So I wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist ski racer, but I also really loved acting and singing, and I wanted to be an actress. And so I pursued both for a long time. I did community musical theater and as a kid, and I actually was in a professional production when I was about 12. But then it got to the point where I had to choose one or the other. I couldn't keep doing both, and so I focused on ski racing. And I had to quit ski racing by around the age of 18. I wasn't good enough to become an Olympic champion, but I learned a lot and had a lot of fun doing it. Also, when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a great mom. My mom was a homemaker, and I loved how she baked for me and she would always be on my field trips. She would come, help out at our school. She was always at all of our extracurricular events. But I also wanted to be like my dad, who ran his own business. I wanted to be a mix of my parents. I wanted to be both. And I'm honestly, although I don't think I've done it perfectly, I think I've given my children a pretty good mix of both of my parents, because I did prioritize for the first 20 years of running my business. I wanted just a lifestyle business. I wanted to be home with my children and be able to be at their events. And I didn't want to be traveling all the time. I just wanted a good lifestyle, and I managed to do that. And now I'm growing my business when they're older and in university and they don't need me around. And then interestingly, about in 2009, I was a little bored with my business. It was running really well. I had been doing it for probably 13 years at that point. I had a great team of people. and I decided to start a community musical theater group,
Oh.
which and so I ended up producing musical theater for about 10 years. The troupe is still running. In fact, it's turned into three different musical theater troupes. We've raised over $500,000 for charity. And I was on stage with that every year, performing, having some, singing, dancing, acting. So I feel like I've gotten to, although I never got an Olympic medal, I have a career in sports and play. Although I never got to be a famous actress, I get to, I play on stage through my community musical theater group. And I do think I've done the best job I can to be a little bit like both of my parents. So I feel really lucky that I kind of got to pursue my dreams.
You are. But everything was intentional anyway. So you say that your mom was a good mom, right? It's a good mom, and then your father also is a good businessman. So you want to be both of them, a mix between the both, right? And then
Exactly.
having that intention in mind, leading the way for you to do whatever you do. You have the goal in mind already for whatever you do, and I congratulate you in 2009 come back onto the stage and perform again. So it feels great to have your childhood dreams to to relive and relive and relive, right? So are you still doing that now?
The musical theater,
Yeah.
it had to stop during the pandemic.
Ah.
And then during the pandemic, my husband and I bought a home in Costa Rica.
Ah.
And they always, the musical theater group rehearses in the winter, and our kids had all moved off to university, and we wanted to start living in Costa Rica in the winter. So I'm actually in Costa Rica right now. And so I'm not part of the troupe anymore. I'm still very much in touch. I've become, over 10 years of being on stage with this group of people, they become some of my dearest friends. They're amazing people. I did start learning guitar when I was in my early 40s. I decided, that was something I always wanted to do. And so I take guitar lessons, and I sing just for myself and for friends around a campfire or something. But I am not by any stretch. I'm never going to be a famous musician or a famous actress, but I have fun and I get a lot of joy from playing music and just playing on stage whenever I can. So yeah.
So you are in South America at the moment, Puerto
Yeah,
Rico.
I'm in Costa Rica, Central America. Yeah.
Oh, Costa Rica. Okay. Wow, I have
Yeah.
a good friend there. So he's a CEO for British American Tobacco, and he oversees the South Americas, Central and South Americas, and half of Europe. But he lives in Brazil at the moment. So he travel
Oh wow.
from Brazil to work on Monday to Friday, and then Saturday Sunday he's in Costa Rica, and then he has a
Really?
yep.
Wow.
So let me check with him. His name is Felicia. Felicia. Okay, so I'll let you know. I let him know that I have a friend. That maybe the two of you can connect together, and then have.
Yeah.
He is a very nice person also. So
Love that. Would
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Felicia or Faraz. I remember the name. I will connect between the two of you. Okay. So
Sounds great.
allow me now to bring you to 1996. Okay, because people will see
Yeah.
the 28 years of success and laugh, but they will not know how everything started, the pains and the struggles and everything. All right.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
were a lot of struggles. It was
Yes.
hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
So
before the
1996.
struggle,
Oh,
before
so,
the struggle, we wanna, because we believe that opportunities go in front of our eyes every moment. All right. And then
yes.
you realize that there's an opportunity to do the same activities in Americas, or you have in one is near LA, right? One in San Francisco area, if I remember correctly, the two places in the US. Okay, and
That's
you
right.
say why don't you start one in Canada? Okay, so
Right.
there's a the two plays in the US has been there for many years, but not a lot of people will be able to see it and replicate it. So how did you come up with the idea to bring the same thing into Canada and implemented it?
You're right. I think as an entrepreneur, I mean, I think I'm innately an entrepreneur. I was born into an entrepreneurial family, and I just can't imagine ever not running my own business. I just, it's something within me. So I was sort of trying to figure out, what do I want to do? I was from a small city and I had moved to Toronto, a big city, and I didn't know a lot of people. So I was sort of trying to also find an opportunity within my own problem, which I think is what entrepreneurs kind of do. They see problems and they go, I could do that better, right? I could fix that problem. And so I was looking at my own problem, thinking, how can I fix this? And I had heard about, I don't even remember how, I had heard about these adult recreational sports leagues in Chicago, and I thought, Toronto's a big city, similar size to Chicago. Why don't I try this? And I love organizing. I've always been an organizer of people. I love to, so it sort of was just something I thought, yeah, I could do this. I could try this. So I quit my job. I'd only ever worked for a company for 1 year. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I quit my job, and I decided to get started and try this. And this was in the days before the internet, right? Like, I mean, the internet was just becoming a thing. Like, people were just getting email addresses. So I had my address book full of names and phone numbers, and I sat and I spent 4 months calling people and telling them my idea. And I said, if you like my idea, can you send me your address book, or names of people that might be interested? And I had people that would literally fax me their address books. So then I would call all those people. So I built up a database of about 800 people. This was in like the winter of 1996. And then I wanted to mail them a newsletter, but I couldn't afford 800 stamps I only had enough money for 400. So my boyfriend at the time was a semi-professional cyclist. And so he agreed to drop off the other 400 by bike. He was going to ride his bike and drop off. And he actually, by the way, he later became my husband and my business partner, husband, father of my 3 children. He's now my ex-husband. We're still friends and business partners. We still work together. We've been working together now he started working with me a year after I started the business. So we've been working together for 27 years. But that, when he was cycling, he agreed to do that to help me get started, which was amazing. So that's how I sort of got started. And then I remember I had set the date that the sports was going to be, it was going to start early May. And I knew I had to get a certain number of teams signed up before we started in order for them to have people to play against. And the week before we were set to start, I had only 13 teams signed up to play across 5 different sports. And when I did the math, I mean, they were paying $300 or $350 a team. When I did the math, I was like, what have I done? I'm not going to survive. Like, this is not enough money to cover all the expenses plus for me to live off of that. What was I thinking? And so I remember very clearly lying down on the floor of my room and crying for about 2 hours. And I lived with 4 women who were all friends from university. And I used the basement of our house as my office. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I was like, what have I done? And then I thought, sitting here crying is not going to change anything. I have to get on the phone and call people again. So I picked up the phone and I called people back and I said, you said you wanted to sign up for soccer, or you said you wanted to sign up for basketball. You have to do it now. And within the next 5 days, I changed that 13 teams into 52 teams. So we had 52 teams for the very first season. And that was enough to make it go and get things started. And, and then there's been lots of ups and downs since, but it was a grind to get things started in those early days. It wasn't like I could just go on Instagram and tell people, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like, it was a very different time, right? So, here we are.
Wow. A lot of people in that situation, after 2 hours of crying, would just drop the ball. And they say, okay, it's not going to worth it. And let's try to find something else. Or let's try to go back to the corporate. And then let's try to, have a normal life. But Kristi decided to pick up the phone and start calling again. And in 5 days, you triple the number of the existing team into 52 teams. So I want to move into that moment of you stop crying and start picking up the phone. Okay? What was in your head back then?
I remember, I can picture the scene so perfectly. I was in my bedroom at this house that I rented. The walls were this raspberry pink color. I was lying on the hardwood floor feeling so sorry for myself and thinking, what have I done? I'm such an idiot. And then I thought, this is not helping the problem. Me sitting here crying is not going to change anything. And I could give up, but I really believed in what I was doing. And I'd had so many conversations with people who really liked my idea. I just needed them to take action and sign up now. I needed to kind of put some pressure on. And so I just thought, I can't give up. I've spent the last 5 months working so hard to get this started. I can't give up right now. And so I just decided to stop crying. And, I've always been told I'm a never give up kind of girl. If I really believe in something, it's just not my nature to be a quitter. I will find a way. If I really believe in something, my team will often laugh at me, and they say one of my superpowers, I guess, is when someone puts up a hurdle or a wall, I find a way around it or through it. I'm not. If I really believe in something, I'm just not going to give up that easily. So.
Kristi, back then, what did the four girlfriends, the people, the friends from university with you, right, stay with you at that house? What did they talk to you, in that dark moment?
I don't remember I'm not sure if they were fully aware how stressed I was, because they all had their own careers and they were very good friends. They tolerated a lot from me, because then once things did get started, I had people coming to the door all the time to hand in their registration form and to pay. I had sports equipment in the basement all the time. They were very good friends to put up with me for the year that I lived with them. But I don't recall. I'm not sure if they ever really realized just how stressed out I was. They probably did, but they all had their own. They had their own things going on too. Yeah, yeah.
So let's say the first year was a success in your expectations, right? So keeping up with the success is also very challenging, because the expectation, the bar is raising, the expectation is more. So how things going after in the year 2 and year 3? Share with us.
So I'm not sure if I thought that first year was a full success. I mean, I didn't make a lot of money, but I did see a lot of people smiling and having fun, and that felt really good. I remember sort of thinking, I don't know how. I didn't really think I could get it very much bigger, but I just kept going. I just kept going because I liked what I was doing. I would be out at the game. I worked really hard. I mean, I was up in the morning doing all the administrative work, and then I would get out every night for probably 3 years. I was out at all the games, checking on the players, making sure they were having fun, asking how could we do this better? What other sports would they like to see offered? Where else would they like to play? Do they know anyone who might want to be a sponsor? I was constantly out talking to people, listening to my customers. And then after the sports games, I would go out to the bars. I always had a sponsor bar to encourage people after they played basketball or volleyball, go back with the other team and have a beer, have a plate of nachos, get to know meet new people. That was the whole idea. And people loved that. And I would be out there meeting and connecting people. And so I did love what I was doing, but financially, I was like, I don't know if I can get this much bigger. Like, I don't know how long I can do this for. And if you had told me in 1996 or 1997 that one day I would have 50 full-time employees and I would be operating in 25 different cities and have, thousands and thousands, like hundreds of thousands of people playing in our leagues every year, I would have laughed. I would have said, there's no way. Like, I wouldn't have believed you. But we just sort of kept going, and it just kind of kept growing. And so I mean, it was only really in 2016, 2017 that I decided to really start to grow exponentially, and that's when I started doing acquisitions, buying other clubs to kind of, because I set a vision. I was having so much fun doing what I was doing, and I was thinking I was a bit bored with the business in 2016, and I knew I needed a new challenge. So I was thinking of selling it, but I really loved seeing the smiles. And so I thought, well, instead of selling this, why don't I really try and grow it? And that meant I wrote down for myself a vision to get 1 million people playing every year. That became the new goal. And we're still a long way from that. But I love the idea of trying to do that. And so I've done, I think, 11 acquisitions now where we've bought clubs in different cities, and we're trying to expand and get more people playing. And so, yeah.
Wow. So, and what year did you realize that the business starting to make financially sound for you to feel the confident to continue,
Yeah, that was probably by like 1990, either 1999 or 2000, right in the early 2000s. I started to realize, oh, this is actually like, I can do well by this business. I had been able to save money to put down a down payment on a home. I had been able to save money to put down a deposit on a weekend home, which a lot of people my age weren't doing that. And so I was like, okay, actually, I think I can make a go with this business. I think we're going to be okay. And it hasn't always been, it was pretty consistent growth for a long time. When I started to scale in 2016, we started to not make as much money because we were investing in growing. So it was a really different and interesting. And then the pandemic hit a few years later, which shut us down. So we had a few years of significant losses because of the pandemic, but we're back and bigger than ever. And I feel like we're on the right track to grow again. So, it's been hasn't been a perfectly smooth ride the last 28 years, lots of ups and downs, but that's the way it is with any entrepreneurial journey, right?
Yep.
And I think
yes.
The one thing I will say that we were fortunate for us in our business was the worst time for my business was the pandemic, and it wasn't because anything we had done. We hadn't made a bad decision. We hadn't taken too much risk. It was simply the pandemic, the mandates from the government saying you can't operate. That's why we had the struggle we did. So I'm actually, that feels good to know it wasn't because we made a bad decision that we were in that tough time.
I move you back into 2000 and early 2000s, okay? The moment that you said that you start realize that the business starting to bring the good things, okay? I mean, you were the person that wake up earliest, okay? You're, just prepare for everything. You were the person sleep latest, to make sure that everything is well taken care for years, all right? And then in those years, it's really resilient for you because most of the business, the startup, it will die in the first 2 or 3 years, if it's not bringing anything at all, right? So, and then if people can be more resisting, and resilience and continue with the path, maybe they can yield, better returns at the end of the road. But majority of the business ends in the first 2 or 3 years for startups, okay? And you put a lot of effort in that. Time, energy that you could also invest elsewhere, that can really bring you, something. So what did you tell yourself in that turbulent times so that you can wake up again very early in the morning and go to bed happily at night?
I think I just really loved what I did. I really loved the impact I was making on people's lives. We started another business around in the late 90s, my husband and I at the time. We started a business doing trash removal. You've heard of 1-800-GOT-JUNK?
Yes.
So it was
I was in that state back then, yes. So I got it, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a similar business to 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And we started that. It was called the Trash Trucks. And we did it for a couple of years, and that was a real grind. That was a hard, both businesses, like running your own business is hard. It's hard work. Both were hard work. but one was so much more satisfying. Um, Taking away people's garbage for me, it was just, and it was just stressful. Like there was just, it wasn't that, you didn't feel like you were, I didn't feel like we were making a super positive impact on people's lives. I have to say, I know Brian Scudamore, who runs 1-800-GOT-JUNK, actually ended up being, my brother is one of his best friends. My brother ran his company, he was the COO of his company for years. Brian was the best man at my brother's wedding. So I actually got to know Brian well over the years, and he's actually kind of a mentor to me now as a businessman. And I have to say, I love how I feel like he believes, and I would agree, he's making impact in people's lives because of how he's franchised his business. So he's creating opportunity for people to run their own businesses, which is amazing. Just a different kind of impact. Oh, sorry. We weren't making that kind of an impact with our trash trucks business. It was a grind. So we actually sold it. It was just, but I just remember thinking, I never would have thought of selling the sports business in those days because I loved what we did. I loved how many people told me, the number of people who told me they met the person they were going to marry. They had babies because of what we did. I had people tell me that our business saved their life because they were depressed and didn't know anyone. And when they living in a big new city, and when they joined our leagues, they made friends. Like I literally had someone tell me they were on the verge of suicide. Wow. Until they joined our leagues. Like it's really powerful what we do. So that's kind of what kept me going for sure.
Wow. How can you stop doing if you heard those kind of messages, right?
Yeah. And it was doing well. It was creating exactly the opportunity. It was the lifestyle I wanted. It was allowing me to. I was always after I had kids in 2000, 2002, and 2004. I was able to be home, go to school events for them. I could go to their sports events, but I had that flexibility, right? And so the whole package was a beautiful package for me. It was what I was after.
A mix of your mom and a mix of your dad.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the COVID-19 hit, and you saw the money, drain out of the account, and of course it's really stressful also, right? So, but then you had an opportunity again to figure out a way to get into the business world where to have a different set of people, a different set of like environment. That also very impactful because this is also another big world that people need to be happy, to have the laugh at works, right? So whose ideas were that to start with?
I actually got the idea. There were some other organizations like JAM in other cities in the United States, and I remember in particular speaking to one couple who ran sports leagues in Los Angeles, and another friend of mine who ran sports leagues in the Washington D.C. area. And I spoke with both of them. We're all struggling to survive. And I remember Brooke in LA, she said to me, we're starting to run bingo nights for our players while everyone's stuck at home. And I was like, bingo? Really? So I said, can I watch? So she said, sure, yeah, come. So I went to one of her virtual evenings on Zoom, and I observed what they were doing. And I thought, okay, we have to try this because we have to try anything. We were trying a lot of different things. And so we started trying it initially for the people who played in our leagues. And then very quickly I was like, I think we should be selling this to companies. And some of my staff thought I was absolutely crazy. They were like, you want us to sell trivia and bingo to companies? I was like, yes, we have to try this. But you know what? We did over $1 million in revenue in that first year doing that. And we produced over 1,500 events in over 30 different countries. It was slow to get started, but once we got going, there was some traction to what we were doing. People were desperate, right? Everyone was working from home, and it really helped. We were not a profitable business, but by running that, it helped cover a lot of our overhead expenses from the sports leagues. Wow. So it was very beneficial. And now it's a whole new, I wouldn't have written my book. I wouldn't have been doing all the keynote speaking I'm doing now. I wouldn't have been doing the consulting we're doing, helping companies have more fun with work. so it's spun off into being a very from the problem came some great opportunity, which I'm grateful that we went through what we did. I wasn't very grateful at the time. I didn't see. I was pretty sad. But now, in looking back, I am grateful that we were put through what we went through in 2020.
So when your team thought it was impossible, and then you first started, and you first had the first clients, the corporate client agreed to do the trivia and the bingo things. How did you feel in your head back then for that first new client?
That first client was my husband. I forced him. I was like, you need to let me. He runs his own TV production company, and he probably had about 50 employees. And I said, you need to let us do this for your team. And he was like, okay, like, sure. And he was happy to help because he knew how sad and scared and depressed I was. And so we did a number of events for Dave's company, Cream Productions, and they loved it. They were laughing, and the feedback was really great because everyone was working from home and missing seeing each other, and so it kind of led me to believe, okay, if they're having fun. And then I had a friend who worked in HR at another company called E1, and she really was supportive of like letting us do some events for them, and when we saw how much people were enjoying it, we realized we were onto something, and so we just started. It gave us the belief and confidence that we could sell this.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I want to congratulate. I want to say congratulations because I interviewed so many business leaders, and there's two things that normally I found they regret not doing yet doing. One was starting their own businesses, because they've been successfully running $1 billion companies around the world, right? And they always think that they could run their own business, but they didn't have time. And I just told them that you're yet doing it. One day you will. Okay. The second one that I commonly see from these amazing people is that they always wanted to write their own book, but they yet having the time to also doing so. So you had both of them. Okay. So tell us, since when you decided to write the book?
So during the pandemic, I had actually thought about writing a book before the pandemic. I was dabbling with the idea because I had done some keynotes on workplace culture and how to have fun at work. We've always had a really fun culture at my organization. I like to laugh. I like to have fun, and so I want to make sure my employees are having fun. And so I did a lot of keynotes, and I remember I was doing a keynote in San Diego, and someone came up to me afterwards and she said, my keynote was top 10, it was like a top 10 list, top 10 ways to have fun at work or something like that. And she said, can I buy a copy of your book? And I said, well, I don't have a book. And she said, wait, what? Like your talk is ready to be a book. And I was like, huh. So I'd actually started to think about writing a book, but then I realized, it wasn't really at that point in time, my business was very B2C. It was very business to consumer, just the sports leagues. So it didn't really make sense to write a book. So then when the pandemic hit and we started doing the B2B corporate events, all the team building events, I thought, now maybe is the time to write a book, because it would translate to help the business as well. And so I had all these ideas, and I had all these different clients now, these business clients, corporate clients, who can share stories with me. So I started interviewing clients and asking, how do you have fun with your work? How do you integrate play at work? And why do you do it? And, and so I started kind of gathering the stories, and it just felt like it was the right time to do it. And I'm really happy I did, because now it's also a lot of the reason why I'm doing as many keynotes as I am. With, when I have the time to do keynotes, I have the book to back it up, and there's a lot of anecdotal stories, but there's also a lot of statistics that back up what I'm saying, that when people have fun at work, it really can improve the business, the bottom line of the business. There's so many ways, whether it's, retention, because turnover is very expensive. So if you can reduce your turnover, you're more profitable. If you have people more engaged, they're far more productive, you're going to be more profitable. If you have happier employees, then your customers are going to be happy. So they're going to want to return. You're going to be more profitable. If you have employees who are happy and creative and innovating because they're having fun at work, creativity, like playfulness, encourages creativity and innovation. Innovation will make for more profitability. And if you have employees who are mentally healthy and physically healthy, they're going to be far less sick days. They're going to be far happier. They're going to be wanting to connect and more friendly with their coworkers. You know, everybody wins. So
Yeah.
there's just the statistics back it up, and so yeah, so it was a good time to write the book, and I'm really happy I did. So thank you.
And thank you for writing it. As a lot of leaders are watching our interviews, and the idea of play, and bring plays to the workplace. I think that a lot of them would want to do it also, but it's too new and too scary to make that big leap of change, right? So if they need to do a baby step to change, so Kristi, what would they start doing so that they can have that baby steps and the courage to do?
It's a great question. So I kind of look at play, bringing play to work in a couple of different ways. One is actually sort of making time for making or creating opportunities for people to actually just not work, like stop work and not and spend some time playing together. Whether that's have a corporate sports team that once a week they meet and they play beach volleyball together, or they play kickball or softball or soccer, whatever. Have a corporate sports team. Or if your company's maybe not super sporty or you have a mix, maybe have a company choir. Imagine if your wife worked at a place where they had a company choir or a company band where they could get together and play music together once a week or once every 2 weeks, play music together. Or like we do, we have a company book club. So every 2 months we read a new book together and then we discuss the book. And it's just a different way of, it's not about work, but we're learning together and we're sort of playfully, I think of reading as a bit of a form of play, because you kind of just can get into the moment, you lose yourself in a book, and then you can talk about the book. So there's that sort of, it could be once a month, go do karaoke together as a company. Once a month, go do a cooking class together. Somehow get together socially. Do a virtual event. We call them lunch and laughs, where hire a company like Jam to once a month do trivia or an escape room or a game show or bingo. There's so many ways to play. You don't even have to be in person. You can do it virtually. So it's about making time for these social connections. That's one way to integrate play into work. The other way is actually how you run your business day to day. So things like celebrating great work being done. We have a shout out channel in Slack or Microsoft Teams. We use Microsoft Teams, but whether you use Slack or Microsoft Teams, have a channel called shout outs. And you'll start to get the leaders in your company to start to celebrate great work being done. Little by little, you'll start to see other people shouting out others for great work. So every day I'll see 2 or 3 different shout outs coming out about people that I maybe don't get to work with all the time, but I see that they're doing great work because other teammates are celebrating them. And that costs nothing. It costs no money, and it can be a playful way to celebrate them. When we welcome a new employee to our team, the onboarding experience is very playful. So when they come to our office for their first day at work, or whether it's virtual or in person, but when they come in person, we have our whole team, whoever can be in the head office that day, is wearing either their when you have been on our team for a year, you get your veterans jersey, you get a hockey jersey that is the Jam logo on it, and the back is your number is the year that you started and your name. And so everyone's either wearing their veterans jersey, or if they're not a veteran yet, they're still in their first year, they have their hoodie, their Jam hoodie. Everyone's wearing their gear. And when the people come in on their first day, the music is blaring, and they have a high five tunnel to welcome them. And so it's just this, again, it costs nothing. It's just 5 minutes for our team to gather and welcome them. And it's a playful way to support someone joining the team on their first day, and it makes a big impact. When we run our meetings, we press play to start every meeting. So we spend about 3 minutes. Whoever's leading the meeting is encouraged to find a playful way to connect. When we run our meetings, we'll have a dodgeball sitting on the boardroom table. And so you don't get to speak unless you're holding the ball. And when it's your turn to speak, or when you're done speaking, you pass the ball to whoever else is ready to speak. It's a playful way to remind people, don't take up too much time talking, and don't interrupt. If you don't have the ball, let the person who has the ball finish speaking. So there's just a lot of playful ways. And I mean, I could go on for days and days and days with ideas for how to have fun at work. I mean, yeah, I could go on forever. That's and Han, I will tell you for your listeners, I have a 10-page PDF if they'd like to download. It's called 10 Ways to Integrate Play into the Workplace, and it's a very easy way to integrate playful ideas. So I've given you a link for that. I think it's www.Kristi Herold, KristiHerold.com/insights25. So if they go to that, they can download my 10 ways to integrate play into the workplace. And there's also a 25% savings there if they'd like to try a Jam virtual event for their team to have some fun, have a lunch and laugh. The laughter is guaranteed or your money back, and they can get a 25% savings. So.
Yep, and then time is precious for everybody, right? So I don't want our leaders out there to reinventing the wheel where you already have all the tools and the experience already. So if any of them would like to get in touch with Kristi and know more about the work that they do and that you do, how could they connect with you directly though?
They can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. It's Kristi, KristiHerold. So on LinkedIn, Kristi Herold, or they can email me, Kristi, Kristi@jamgroup, JAM group.com, or they can go online and check out Jam Group and check out our corporate events and ask us about that, how we can help them play and connect. And if they're interested in culture consulting or keynote speaking, they should just email me directly and I'll get them set up.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Chris, I have two last questions for this conversation, okay, before I let you, enjoy the sun out there again, okay? So, my wife and I, we on a different path because we, like you want to bring joy and laugh to people. My wife and I would like to help people to think better because we believe that our thinking capability these days has been diminishing because of so many factors. And if we can help people to think better, they can come up with better decisions, and something good could come in at the end of the tunnel. So every conversation we had like this, we will ask the same question. So this question for you is, Kristi, how have you been growing your ability to think over the years?
So I like to read a lot, and when I read, it spurs new ideas. So that's one way, and the other way, I like to put my phone down, and if I'm going for a walk, sometimes I'll listen to a podcast, but I find some of my better thinking is if I go for a walk on the beach and I just let my mind wander. I get ideas from doing so. So definitely reading and podcasts, but also then just putting devices away and just kind of walking and being in nature. I find great ideas come to me.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And sometimes not so good ideas too, by the way, lots of ideas.
Thank you for sharing. So the last question is about the future. We traveled the past already. We knew, your dreams at young age, and then we knew the journey, the beautiful journey for you to start into, the business that bring life to people and joy and play, and now we want to head into the future a little bit. So is there anything exciting that you are about to do you want to share with us so that we can celebrate with Kristi in advance?
I think the future for me is to continue chasing getting 1 million people playing, whether that's through our sports leagues. I'm very excited. We just closed on an acquisition in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's a big new city for us to be in. So I'm very excited to get more people playing in Atlanta. And I'll look to expand into other cities with that. But also, we want to keep connecting people through play in the corporate world as well. So I think and I like to spread the message. I think I'd love to do some keynote speaking more in other countries other than Canada and the United States. I may have an opportunity to do some in Australia, which I'm really excited about. And I guess if anyone knows of wants to hear someone do a keynote on the power of play, please think of me. And I would love to, because I'm so passionate about connecting people through play. So spreading my message around the world that's sort of another future dream I have, is just keep encouraging people to make time to play, because I'm a big believer that we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So I really want people to keep in mind, just because you grow up, you don't have to stop playing. You can keep playing in so many ways, whether it's playing cards or playing music or playing sports. There are lots of ways to keep playing, and when we play, it just brings so much joy to our lives and others. So that's the message I think I really would love to spread, and the more opportunity I have to do that, the better.
Beautiful. To be honest with you, Kristi, this is one of the best conversations I have had in my journey. So thanks a lot for the privilege to knowing you, and thanks for the amazing things that you have been doing together with the team. And I would love to see you at that 1996 moment when you were in, when you were crying, and then I will give you a big hug and tap to your shoulder and say, you're going to be very successful. You're not going to believe it back then, but, I would love to say that message to you, okay? So I look forward to seeing you in November, and make sure that you and your family let me know in advance so that we can have proper preparations, okay?
I will definitely be in touch. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. It's so lovely to meet you.
So lovely to meet you also. So I see you soon. You have a wonderful day. Okay. Say hello to your family for us, please.
Thank you, and keep playing, okay?
Yeah, keep playing. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.